Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Corbin Russwin 783F208 spring housing assembly. This is the outside spring housing assembly for all functions except the 33... mama. A little bit of a burr in there. Okay, yeah, there it is. It's still intact and it's not in my finger. Well, you're dealing with raw metal. Gloves obviously would be very typical. I don't use gloves when I'm making videos, but when I'm doing any sort of work, I'll always be wearing gloves. Okay, so the everything except the 3380 and the 3381 function. So this is the outside spring assembly, and the purpose of this video is to give you visual evidence of the item, some dimensional evidence. Overall diameter of the unit, as you can see, about 3.5. The thickness, it's about 1/2 inch. Then, of course, your posts are there, and those are going to take the screws from the inside housing assembly naturally. Now, this video is not to just show you what this looks like. It's really to back you into how do you find all of the other parts that you might need on the 3300 series lock. And let's continue on with that right now. Now, from the manufacturer's page where we were looking at this product initially, or maybe where you have found this video, there's a link to the manufacturer's page here, and when you click on that, you're going to pull up our Corbin Russwin page. Lots of information on here, and we'll just touch on now the file we're looking for, and it's called Parts and Service Manual. Fire that up. Then what you could do is a couple of things after that document loads. You can search for CL3300, or you can also search for the part number that you're looking for, which is 783F208. Either way will work. CL3300. That will find the entire catalog. Okay, or again our part number 783F208. That will also find our part number. And that's handy because you're going to get right to the page where the outside housing assembly is shown. And right here is where the CL3300 series starts. And as you scroll through, you're going to find all of the different components that are available. Okay? It's nice to see these finish codes. So here's an exploded drawing of the 3300, and we are, of course, dealing with part number 3, the outside spring assembly. So when they say spring assembly, these levers are knobs. There are springs packed inside of here to keep that lever at a healthy horizontal position. The inside spring assembly is here. This client happened to order some chassis, some inside spring assemblies, and some outside spring assemblies. And because of the document, the client is able to get the part numbers that he needs. We're looking at part 3, which is spring housing assembly outside on page 5. So we can scroll to page 5 and find spring housing assembly outside, all functions except that 80 and that 81. And here we are, 783F208. That's it. The other housing assemblies are listed here as well. The inside that the client ordered. The client ordered, again, also a chassis, a standard chassis, and was able to get the chassis part number because we knew the function. We know that he's dealing with 55 function classroom functions, so we knew what our chassis was. Except that this client is running large format, so we knew that this was the chassis part number for large format. I also believe the chassis part number is the same for small format as it is for just conventional cylinders. Now, the reason that this client is able to get these parts to keep the significant investment in the original order of Corbin Russwin hardware, this happens to be a hospital, is because this document is published. And it's easy to rebuild the lock because everything you're seeing here is no different, almost no different than if you had just a brand new lock. You're not going to have to fuss with that push button, that push turn button, and you're not going to have to fuss with anything inside of the chassis itself. Now, if you were to need to tear this apart and replace the springs for the retractor hub, that's a different animal altogether. But they don't even list those parts. So you can't rebuild anything, any subcomponent lower than the chassis. So that does make rebuilding these practically as easy as installing them as new. even though the Corbin Russwin lock goes together quickly without any need to peel any parts off, especially in this day and age when it's just a race to make everything robust, simple to install, and most importantly, quick to install, very fast without there being any complications of a speedy installation. Other latches are listed here. If you've got a fire-rated door, you might want to be mindful to read the label to make sure of what the label tells you in terms of a minimum latch throw. You might be looking at a 3/4 latch throw if you're especially in a pair of doors. Strikes are listed here as well. Rabbited kits, should you need those. Okay. It's nice that they have a wrought strike box, meaning it's made of metal. Wrought is made of metal. So many people have them made of plastic, and I have nothing against plastic, except that they are cracked a lot of the time when the lock arrives to you because they're made of plastic. Those parts inside of the lock box are not insulated very well. And some people just want a metal dust box is what they want. You can get into the different trim that would be available for you as well. And as you continue to scroll through, you get to your 8000 series interchangeable core, should you need to, and etc. Installation instructions continue on. A really great document for your needs. Let's finish up this video. Now, finally, this video was to serve as that visual and dimensional evidence, get you to that parts diagram so you can figure out all of the possible parts that you might need to keep getting that useful service out of the significant investment in your Corbin Russwin locks. If you're a school, if you're some sort of publicly funded organization, yeah, responsibility with taxpayer dollars is not a choice, it's an obligation. And getting to that parts diagram to allow you to just buy the housing when you need it, or the spring. Really, probably what's happened is in the CL3380 series lock, with millions of uses, those springs are going to fatigue. The ability to get those springs in the housing to keep that lock working correctly, that's the game. That's the name of the game. That link to the manufacturer's page will also show you the product catalog, all the Corbin Russwin products we sell, a link to the manufacturer's website, and then archival catalogs that you'll see there, very old scans. The scans aren't old, but the documents that were scanned are very old. 19th century versions of the catalogs. I'm partial to Corbin Russwin, and it's because I like their technical support people. They're responsive. They indulge me. They tolerate the questions. They have a fairly complicated... Corbin Russwin isn't complicated. Sargent, I think some people might say, is complicated. But you still need answers to questions that aren't obvious. And they do a really good job in the technical support department and their key records department. I appreciate conversation that I've had with those folks as well. Assa Abloy can tap the shoulders of incredibly talented individuals under their epic umbrella that covers sister companies such as Sargent and Yale and Rockwood and McKinney and on and on and on. And Corbin Russwin, P.F. Corbin, I'm not sure when they got their start, 1849 maybe, don't quote me. I know there's a catalog from 1871. Their sister company, Sargent, is at least as old. Yale is at least as old. Medico is not nearly as old, but that name, a sister company of Corbin's, is a leader in restricted keyways. One great thing that ASA is doing through Sargent, through McKinney, Rockwood, the sister companies, is promoting the ability to entertain special requests for hardware, special designs, special finishes. They've taken an approach in a marketing release that I've seen recently that says, take a blank sheet of paper, sketch us what you want, send it to us, and we'll take a look at it for you. And that's great because it's a renaissance of choices in the hardware industry, where 30 years ago you had 3 lever choices. Now you've got 30, okay? With the willingness, or maybe it's just the availability of machinery to do the work. And it's also them competing against other, the Corbin and Russwin's competitors. They're doing it. We have to do it. So it's really good for the consumer. And publishing documents so that you can rebuild your locks. That's good for the consumer as well. Any questions on the Corbin Russwin 783 F208 outside spring housing assembly or any other Corbin Russwin product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.